like a death sentence.
Hey, Jerry.
We're all coming back. Hi, Frank.
Hello, Helen.
Hello. Hi, Frank.
Hello, Jarvis. And Harvey.
Hello. There he is.
Carol, I like your new sign.
Well, thank you. As I was telling a couple of these other people earlier, it's one of the signages that is used on the Toastmaster Zoom Master team. We've got a whole bunch set up. We've got one for timer. We've got one for tech master, chat master, admissions master, the whole set.
So, Carol, do we have more people coming off the
No,
breakout rooms, or is this our
the
group?
breakout rooms are closed.
Okay. And we lost Jarvis there for the moment.
He said he was having technical problems earlier.
Was he? Okay. All right. Well, why don't we get started?
He's coming back in right now.
Jarvis is coming in. Good. There he is. We'll let him get connected first. Okay, Jarvis, I think I see you're back. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I'm back. I'm sorry. I'm having terrible
No worries.
technical difficulties over here, so
Okay,
please forgive me.
we'll just
Apologies accepted.
hope you hang on there, okay? So welcome, everybody. My name is Frank McShane. I'm the secretary of the Institute of Management Consultants, Northwest Oregon and Washington. Welcome to our October speaker series. We've got two great speakers with us today, and we're going to get started in just a moment. I'm also the founder and president of Square Peg Consulting, and our mission is to help manufacturing and distribution companies turn their supply chain frustrations into cash. So with that brief introduction, I'm going to be your facilitator today, and I'm going to introduce our treasurer of our chapter, who is going to give you a little overview about herself, and then she's going to introduce Jarvis, who is a new member of our chapter. So Suzanne, I'm going to introduce you first, and you can take it from here, okay?
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a shout out to you, Jarvis. Welcome. As a new member, you will soon find yourself grateful for the group's wisdom. I learn something every month from these valuable talks. The supportive environment is wonderful, and the wisdom here is phenomenal. I'm also a recent member after retiring from healthcare safety consulting. I decided I needed to come back and do something. There was more to do. I'm a current grad student in the MBA program at Eastern Washington University, and I find the IMC work, the group, both essential and very practical. I find it's an opportunity to learn and network and learn what is really happening now in consultancy. My name is Suzanne Loeb. I'm the treasurer of IMC now. I would like to introduce you now and ask you, Jarvis, if you'd like to say a few words about yourself. We heard in the breakout room about you and your studies at Gonzaga. Would you like to just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I have a nice and tidy 3-hour presentation that gives a synopsis of my career and accomplishments and those things. So it's only a 36-point presentation. I narrowed it down for this just to make sure. But excited to be here. Jarvis Hall. I am from Portland, Oregon. I started my consulting business in 2013, working with nonprofit organizations. I initially worked with nonprofits and for-profits, but I started doing work as a business advisor for the Small Business Development Center at PCC, as well as a nonprofit CDFI, Ascent Funding, where I worked with underrepresented business populations and underrepresented entrepreneurs. And so I wanted to make sure I had a clear delineation between that part-time work and then my consulting work. So I tended to specialize in nonprofits. I've worked in government and nonprofit for most of my career. I have a bachelor's from Oregon State. Did my MBA for business, government, and not-for-profit management at Willamette in Salem, Oregon, and working on a PhD in leadership studies from Gonzaga University. And I got introduced to this organization through a course that I took this summer in leadership and consulting. And I learned about this organization and said, hey, I need to jump in and be a part of some things that other people are doing. So thought this was exciting, happy to be a part, and glad to learn and hang out with all of you fine individuals.
Thank you. It's good to know you. Glad you're here. I'm returning the meeting back to Frank.
Thanks, Jarvez. That was a great introduction. I appreciate it. And we'll look forward to the rest of your 35 slides somewhere down the road. Okay, so it's my pleasure to introduce our innovation talk speaker today, who also happens to be our chapter president. So John Anderson, he is the principal of Because Business Consulting. And his topic today is something I know he has a lot of passion about. It's talking about mental gymnastics and practicing public speaking. He attends a 7 a.m. weekly Toastmasters meeting every week to stay in shape on this topic. Today, he's going to share how working out at his mental gymnasium, which he calls the Toastmasters, sharpens his presentation skills, it reduces his public speaking anxiety, and strengthens his consulting network of clients and colleagues. So let's welcome John, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. You all follow the news. There's 37 to 50% fewer small businesses as of June 2021 than in January 2020. This is all occurring while there has been a surge of new business formations. Some small businesses are flourishing, others have been wiped out. Like all small businesses, each of us continues to be directly impacted by the crisis. Some days are okay or good. Then we experience tragedy as friends and family are ill and have died. This is IMC now. How are these uncertain times affecting your consulting practice? Is the ambiguity eroding your confidence, securing and executing engagements? These tumultuous events are having a cascading consequences on our practices, clients, and prospective firms to whom we're offering help. Sales, profit, and business survival are being dramatically influenced by supply chain issues, hiring, retention, and adapting to new technology solutions. Like our personal and family lives, some firms are adapting, many aren't. How are you managing the depression and fatigue in this climate? As consultants, we're asked to show leaders how to capture opportunity and dodge disaster. We're the mental health and physical healthcare professionals in the business world. This is a photograph of a pre-COVID offsite communications training with an accounting firm. The partners have hired me several times to diffuse sticky human resource issues. Several different partner staff conflicts have been resolved, allowing the firm to expand. I've relied upon different subject matter expert consultants to accompany me. I've hired this accountancy to resolve conflict between an industrial client of mine and the estate of a deceased partner. Without a network of professional experts, facilitation, and conflict resolution training, I couldn't be doing these projects. A partner at the accounting firm first recommended me from work she watched me do at a women's center where she was a board member. These projects are examples of how communities of influence are crucial for nurturing a consulting practice. I founded America Publishing Company in 1976 because Business Resources grew out of it in 2003. I've begun and sold other businesses, launched products and projects, chaired committees. I'm quick to admit I'm not bashful. I've done lots of talks and even more sales calls. I joined the IMC in 2008. I joined Toastmasters in 2011. Careful evaluation, creative thinking, and being well prepared are how I strive to manage projects successfully. Concern becomes panic when a project goes sideways. When anxiety first begins, I know it's time for a change. Ignore the warnings and a crash can result. Next slide, please. You have to love challenges to be a successful management consultant. Between 40 and 77% of people have a fear of public speaking. But skill in public speaking is important to building a consulting practice. Also necessary is the eagerness to meet new groups of people, seek collaboration, and offer to help organizations with daunting challenges. Oh, Carol, can you change the slide, please? Like any learned skill, meeting business leaders and speaking to win engagements can be improved if one receives training and practices with others. Practice can reduce fears. Challenge yourself routinely, and you can train your butterflies to fly in formation. Next slide, please. I find it useful to participate in 3 types of organizations to refine and practice my communication skills. I encourage you to visit and explore different organizations. Join 2 or more. The Institute of Management Consultants has 10 chapters. IMC USA is one of 48 member institutes in the International Council of Management Consulting Institutes. Our newest IMC Now member is Ms. Nsemono Karen of Nigeria. Other new members live in Alaska, Florida, and Maryland. Joining the IMC has changed my life. Participating in Toastmasters has changed my comfort level with public speaking. Each Tuesday morning, I'm on stage, speaking and being evaluated by a dedicated team, counting my every so, and other filler words. I've belonged to a number of Toastmaster clubs. Like the IMC chapters, Toastmaster clubs offer different specialization cultures. Early Words meets at 7 a.m., attracting committed, dedicated members who want real results. Early Words is my mental gymnasium, providing ongoing practice in doing a variety of impromptu and prepared talks. With every speech, I'm building skills for strong openings, logical development, and memorable closes. Active listening, timing, and evaluations are built into every meeting in a program perfected over the last 96 years. Our membership exceeds 357,000 in more than 16,000 clubs in 143 countries. I'm currently the Early Words Membership Vice President, a past club president, and a district public relations leader. I hold a coveted Distinguished Toastmaster medal, signifying my achievements. Another valuable opportunity for speaking is the National Speakers Association. Our own Jerry Fletcher, the IMC Now Marketing Chair, is an accomplished professional speaker and an NSA member. Industry organizations are an additional resource for building your practice. Chambers of commerce, networking, and lead groups are a place to begin, but serious national and international trade associations offer excellent venues to meet business and organization leaders who have the authority to engage and hire consultants. Next slide, please. What is your message and how do you deliver it? Do you blog? Have you written articles, white papers, or books? Do you have a YouTube channel with videos of the talks you've given? What are the organizational challenges that interest you most? Startup, transformation, succession, exit, sale? What field are you known for? What type of organizations are you most comfortable working with? Fortune 500, Main Street, manufacturing, service, or nonprofit? Next slide, please. Build your place in a variety of organizations that stimulate your interest and imagination. Practice, prepare, and participate. Develop active listening skills and an inquisitive style. Above all, if you think you can contribute, offer to help. Then listen for requests, make promises, and by all means, keep your word. These tumultuous times are affecting all organizations. Grow in the shelter of a safe place. Volunteer at the IMC. Practice public speaking at a Toastmaster club. Update and refine your consulting message. Research industries and firms. Listen for what they need. Offer to help. Work in teams to be sure you can successfully fulfill the promises that you make. IMC Now's membership committee is fostering greater member interaction, collaboration, and practice speaking, listening, and responding to opportunities. I look forward to seeing your active participation at ConsultCon November 5th and 6th, and at our future IMC Now meetings. I hope to see you soon, and we will celebrate our victories together.
All right. Thank you, John. Nicely done. As John mentioned, he mentioned ConsultCon, so I wanted to make you aware, if you weren't, that recently IMCA USA sent out an invitation to all of us to renew our membership and benefit from a discounted participation at ConsultCon. You received an email on October 1st. It's called "You Are the Reason You Are Our Reason for Being," and it goes through all the details of how to take advantage of that combination. But it's a combination of a renewal of your membership and a discount from the current version down to $199 for the ConsultCon participation. So please look for that and take advantage of it. And I think, Jerry, you had some comments?
I was just going to comment on John's basic premise. One of the reasons I'm still in business is because I discovered the fact that when you're networking, you can network with a whole lot more people in a hurry by speaking. Because, if there's 10 in the room, 20, 50, 100, whatever it may be, a lot of them want to hear more than what you've got to say. And so it automatically generates the beginning of a relationship. So speaking can take you a long way as a consultant. And other than that, I'll shut up.
Okay. All right, well, any quick questions for John on his topic?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Harvey.
John, what are the 3 keys for your success as a speaker? And that is, and I want to talk about it. I would like your perspective from a preparation and a delivery viewpoint.
Well, I have the determination of a bulldog. And I'm a member of Early Words, so they heard me do a 2.5-minute talk 2 weeks ago, a 7.5-minute version last week, and a 10-minute, 9-minute, 30-second version this morning. And I've probably recorded this talk 20 times.
Prior to giving it, or
Right.
how do you mentally then get prepared the day before, the morning of giving your presentation?
I've been giving it for the last 4 or 5 days. Every day I've been giving it.
Okay, but I'm just talking about in general. Doesn't
Oh.
matter whether it's this talk or any talk, or one of the things you talked about was fear of public speaking and so forth. So let's say tomorrow morning you've got a topic other than what you've been working, that you've been giving regularly, but it's a new topic, a new audience and so forth. Mentally, how do you prepare yourself the day before and then the morning of?
I get up early and I take a good shower. And then I'm ready at the computer at least a half an hour early. And then I have a lot of coffee. I drink probably 10, 12 cups of coffee, maybe 14 a day. How about you? What do you do?
Well, I have a model that I've used my entire career pretty much, and that is, even I've done a lot of public speaking, maybe not as much as you have, but I always prepare the day before. I go over it the night before I give the talk, and I rehearse it. Every time, doesn't matter how well I know the topic, how many times I've given it before, I always go back through it so that when it's time to give the talk the next day and I get up in the morning, I might get up early and go through it again, but then I just set it aside. I don't think about it anymore. And I just go walk in and I give it, and we try to respond to the energy, the dynamics in the audience. And I don't like to stand behind a podium or a lectern and so forth. I like to wander around. I like to engage, get people to feel comfortable to engage, because I found, at least for the work I do, it's not about espousing concepts and techniques. It's about getting the audience to ask me questions so that I can give examples that relate specifically to the question they have in mind, or get them to elaborate more about what's behind their question.
Well, there's a big difference between giving a talk or running an event that's several hours long. I've given half day, all day events with other people. And yes, you're just out there, and whatever comes up, you deal with it. But when you're doing Zoom talks these days, we have an opportunity to polish the rough edges a little more. So I go back and forth, and in Toastmasters, as I'm sure you know, there's impromptu speaking at every meeting. So, after a while, we get better. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger.
For sure.
Hey,
So one thing I learned, I'll just share this one tip with everyone. I learned this years ago when I was young, when I was first starting my career, and I knew my topic better than anyone else, I thought, in the room, inside, outside. And I gave a presentation and it was so good, so polished, so technical, so right on. and nothing, it was flat on the audience. So I was sitting out in the audience and I was asking, and I watched other speakers get up there, far more experienced than I was. And I asked people around me because they seemed to really like it. And I said, and the guys weren't really espousing much value, in my opinion. Maybe I was egotistic, but you know what they told me? I really like him. He's really entertaining. I like listening to him. So I changed my style to not focus on as much detail, not too many key points, but I realized that when you're public speaking, that you are an entertainer as well as a subject matter expert. And if you can't engage the audience, that where they will develop some kind of emotional connection with you, you're not going to be able to convey the points that you really want to make. And you don't need to have that many points to make that you need to make in order to get the audience to engage. And what you want, the goal is, at least for me, when my talk was done, I want people to come up from the audience and start talking to me. And that usually led to a potential engagement or relationship, or let's get together afterwards, or meet. So that became my objective.
Okay, very good, gentlemen. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us. And speaking of speaking, we have another speaker. So I'm gonna make an introduction here in just 1 second. So our inside track speaker today is Jim Grew, who is the principal of Grewco. And he is known as the defogger and accelerator. He's an executive advisor who distills 40 years of leadership success for his clients. He's got firsthand experience as a senior executive with profit responsibility for 8 private companies and the divisions of 2 separate billion-dollar public firms. More recently, he's been consulting and coaching with leaders of over 40 US firms in a host of industries. His unique mix of business experience and advanced training at Menninger is the catalyst that clarifies strategies that cut through the fog and produce dramatic results quickly. Back in 2015, he published a book titled The Other Side of Succession: How to Quickly Boost Valuation, Grow the Business, Get Out of the Day-to-Day, or Sell Out and Take the Money and Run. That's quite a subtitle there, Jim. Today, he's going to shine a light on the big decisions you or a client must make when you're considering succession. He will not get into the infinite details of mergers and acquisitions. He will not discuss how to negotiate a deal or write the agreement or look good for the due diligence. He will tell us how to strategize succession and how to make a business more desirable, regardless of how the owner decides to exit. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jim Grew.
Thanks, Frank. Yeah, you can hear me. Succession is a loaded term and everybody kind of draws their own conclusion. So let me arbitrarily put this frame around the discussion. The most obvious target for this succession will be the leader of the business, CEO or president, who is over 50 and who has figured out eventually he's going to die. And so either he's going to die in the saddle or he's going to grow somebody else to replace him. The other target for succession is key leaders in lower levels of the business. The logic is the same, but the risk isn't quite as big. And what I'm going to try to focus on here is just some things that I've shared with clients that will help them, hopefully, do the succession better than they expected. One of the big problems with succession is the ego of the leader. You've got to have the ego and the courage to be successful. But the backside of the ego is an unwillingness to admit that anyone else can do what you do, or to think carefully about what the next generation of leadership should be. It sounds easy and it's not. So are the slides working, by the way?
Not yet, Jim. We don't see your shared slides.
Oh, well, we'll have to, let me see if I can figure out how to do that.
Green button, bottom of the screen.
Yep, I've got to get to bottom of the screen. Come on, man. Okay, prayer.
We can have Carol bring up your slides if you'd like.
Yeah, well, that's, if Carol, can you do that? Carol?
I'm here. I had to unmute myself. I have never received the slides yet.
Oh, okay, wait a minute. Here we go. I am sorry for this. This is not what I expected.
Do you have permission to share your slides? You need to, the leader has to give you permission to share slides.
Yeah, that's been done.
Yep, no, it's my problem. I'm just not sure how to make this work. I'm looking at them.
So if you click on the green button, you can see where your slides are in there.
I'm getting all kinds of slides here.
Yeah. So find the presentation and double click on that.
You're a genius. Look at that. That's why you're running the show.
Okay, now click on the screen down the lower right.
Yeah,
The little tiny screen at the lower right.
little movie screen down on the or projector screen down on the very bottom of your PowerPoint window. A little further, more
To the right.
To the right. One
Oh.
more. Yeah, there you go.
There
There
you
you
go.
Good. Are we done yet? Thank you for your patience. Okay.
You bet.
You got to
So-
click the screen each time you want to change the slide, Jim.
Okay, well, you'll help me if I am not able to do it. Okay, so back to the point here, the target of this is the person leading the business typically. And what's underneath this is an unwillingness to admit that the change is going to happen. One of the reasons that business leaders, in my experience, want to sell their businesses is that they think it's a simple path and they will be taken out of their misery because one day somebody will hand them a check and they can go on down the road and live the rest of their life. That's the purchase fairy who doesn't exist. Instead of that, let's talk about things that a business leader can do now in order to help him or her move toward the next stage of their life and also to enhance the value of their business, because there are hundreds of people relying on them in this business, their employees, their customers, their suppliers, the rest of their family. So this is not an individual responsibility at all. Succession takes 5 different forms. You know these, but I'll run through them quickly. A sale of the business, an employee stock ownership plan, hiring an outsider to run the business, promoting an insider, an employee, or moving a family into position. In all cases, this is about who is going to end up being the president or CEO, the top leader of the business. And I'll tell you a story of a client who is very successful. She runs a construction business here. It is huge, $50 million business or so. And we were working together on succession. She had identified a wonderful guy to run the business for her. She had an agreement with her husband that in 3 years she would leave and come and play with him. And she said to me, every Friday I take a grandma day and I go away and I see my grandchildren. And when I come back on Monday, nothing has changed. I don't know what in the world is wrong with these people. And I said to her, they're thinking about you. You're in their minds. And they're imagining what you would want them to do, and you're not there to give permission. So they just wait till you come back. That was not a good answer for her, but ultimately we worked through the problem more by helping grow her successor than by convincing her to let go. She ultimately has done that. This separation problem, which I'm just describing, is deep, and most people don't talk about it. If you think about it, most people who are leading businesses who are over 50, different if you're 30 or 35, have been doing this for a number of years. It's wrapped up in their identity. They are wedded to the power of the position in ways that they're not even aware of, even though they can recite all these things. And so there is a complicated emotional calculus tied to this, which is a part of the process. It isn't as simple as building a list of tasks and saying, who are these going to go to? You need to do that. But the real issue is how to help the leader reframe what her life is and where it's going to go. And that sometimes involves a specific therapist. I am not one, to help with that. This is not a trivial problem, not talked about. There are two paths for succession in my experience, and these go on simultaneously. Yours, meaning the job of the leader. I talked to you about Carol, the founder and president of the client company. She has a path for herself, which will be different from the path of her replacement. Yes, her replacement needs to build the skills to handle increasing responsibility, to build a working relationship with her that is effective and can confront problems quickly and deal with them and all that kind of thing. Her path is to find a way to step away and to let go a little bit without letting the whole rig go over the cliff. And it's a very complicated dance. If you imagine yourself in a conference room with the key leaders of a business, and it can be anywhere from 3 to 9 people, it's a very complicated conversation. There are relationships going on all the time among all the people on top of whatever is the problem of the moment. And those relationships need to either be ended or replaced as a part of developing the paths for these two people. And the way to do that, the way I found doing that, is to identify the need for the two paths and to begin talking about, okay, what are we going to do differently next week? And it is literally one step at a time. It is not a one fell swoop kind of move, unless the business is sold, and that's not really what I'm talking about here. That's a sort of a different game. The leader's role in this, now the you is the leader, changes dramatically. The single most difficult change is to move from making decisions to providing advice and ideas. Sounds easy, but remember, the last vote is always the boss, the one who says yes, who can sign the check. Letting go of that position is in itself very difficult. But even for people who can explain to you why it's important for them to let go, who can tell you how they're going to do it, when the big choices come into the room, all the heads turn and look at the boss, waiting for a nod. And being willing to say, what do you think, which sounds easy, is very difficult. And it is the mark of a leader who has moved into the next phase of the succession path. And so the starter position is to say, I'm going to handle and be involved in risk decisions only. Risk means risking the health of the business. Risk means huge investments. Everything else you guys do, let me know what you did. Easy to say, very hard to do. Second, to delegate more, which means when people inevitably show up at the boss's desk, and this happens all the time, whether the door is open or closed, people come in and say, what do you think I should do, boss? The question is, what do you think? And then the boss shuts up, presses lips together, forces the other person to say, well, here's what I think. And well, okay, why don't you talk about that with John? Whatever you and John decide, you go do. Now, I can recite that easily. That's a very difficult change for a leader who is used to giving permission and saying, that's a good idea, you go with that. The job involves more of what and less of how. Here's what I mean by that. What means priorities? What are the most important 2 or 3 things that this organization has got to accomplish in this year and therefore this week? And how do we push everything else to the side so that the key things stay in the middle of the focus? The how to do it is the most difficult change, I should think, for a leader, because leaders usually have operated at lower levels in the business, whether they were founders and the business grew with them or whether they were promoted in. They started out being very interested in the details of how things are to be done. Their job is to grow people who understand the how, so that the how can get done without them even knowing about the how. And this is a very difficult and essential skill for a leader who is eventually not going to be there at all. And so the how kind of organization, the how people need to be developed, rewarded, and embraced. There are some tools that are helpful to the person who is trying to mark her own path. One of them is a rubric that I learned when I ran a division at Fred Meyer, which is, this is the old kid and the new kid together, making a list of major responsibilities, what's yours, what's mine, and what's ours together. I know there's a song about that, but that's not where we're going. And the list of what is ours can be gradually parsed so that things gradually move into the yours pile and then move from the mine pile to the yours pile. It helps to spell these out. This is a simple idea, so it's stupid simple, but it's very empowering for people who are struggling to figure out how to manage this move. The second transitional object here, and I'll explain that term in a minute, that is actually a technical psychological term, is a management team, not a staff. Many companies think their management team is their department's heads who meet once a week with a boss and are told what to do. That's a staff, that's not a management team. A management team is typically the department heads and key leaders in the business who meet regularly, usually weekly, who build a budget together, who are accountable to each other, not to the boss, to each other for their individual results, who help each other deliver the results together for the company, and who will stand together and address whatever needs to be addressed in order for the company to be successful. What that means is that the role of the CEO or president then is to provide insight, to provide encouragement, and also to raise her hand when the approach seems more risky than is prudent. Now, as a transitional object, a management team is a marvelous way to move from the old leader to the new leader. And the way you do that is build a management team, with the old leader leading that business and leading that group, and then gradually, once the new leader sees how this management team operates, switch. The new leader runs the management team, manages the agenda, which is what are the questions we're going to manage. And that moves the old leader into the position of providing information, but not making decisions. It's very powerful. A transitional object in psychology is the blankie that the little kid carries around. Everybody, I think, remembers that, or the teddy bear, it's one or the other. And that object the kid carries around when the kid has outgrown it, quotes, but that's a way for the kid to feel secure in this new world, because it's a remnant of when the kid was little and had mom around all the time to take care of her. It's a real thing. And the management team is a transitional object in this kind of situation. The other necessity, this is sometimes a hard sell, is an outside advisor like us. There are two main roles for an outside advisor. One is to provide inertia. If you meet every week and what'd you do, how are we doing next? That meeting done right will help whoever is the leader, or new or old, to do what they need to do to take their next steps. The other idea for a consultant, and you all do this, is to observe, I'm seeing this. Is that what you want to be going on? Am I missing something? That the kind of observation, which is the outsider without any skin in the game, to help people who are in a new place, and that is the recently promoted leader and the legacy leader, are both now in a new place. They've never been here in their life. Having someone who is outside, who is theirs, who's on their side, not a board member, not someone demanding performance, but someone who can help them see what they need to see, is a powerful helper as they make this journey. If a leader has decided to bring in a replacement to themselves in the business, that means they're going to hire, and that either means promote from within or hire from outside. It's the same thing. The hiring process should look 5 years into the future. It is not a replacement of the current leader, a mistake many make. The discipline of saying, what is this business going to look like in the future? What's going to matter helps frame the key skills of the leader. Second, it's best to bring in whoever this person is 5 years before they are supposed to ascend to the throne, often not done. But the reason for that is that if they have employees' acceptance, they will be able to move quickly and get done what they need to. If they are brand new, there is an enormous amount of resistance to them just because they're not the old boss. Things are new. There's a trust issue, and it's difficult even for the best to get through that. And the pace of change now is so high that you can't wait 4 years to get everybody comfortable with you when you're already in the chair. Third is you're hiring for leadership skills, not technical skills. You can hire technical skills, but the skill of a leader at the senior level in a business is different from the technical skills at the lower levels. And people who have great technical skills can be lousy leaders. The cliche, of course, is a salesman who fails as a sales manager. Finally, financial reporting and analysis needs to be upgraded for this reason. An owner or leader who has been with the business for, let's say, 10 or 15 years has a whole array of information flows, some formal financial reporting, some talking to the old hands he can trust, some particular small reports. And this array of information helps the leader have a sense of what's really going on or where things aren't working right. Someone who comes into the organization without the 15 years experience relies heavily on good financials and the analysis to know where the focus needs to be. One of the, it's a true story, and something I'm not entirely proud of, but nonetheless, I was president of a truck tank manufacturing and installation company in Kansas City. These were fuel tanks, and we couldn't figure out how to make money. We kept losing. It was not a pretty picture. And finally, the owners of the business, who were a private equity group, brought in forensic accountants, believe it or not, which is awful, just terrible, because every employee assumed that it was aimed at them, that they weren't trusted. It was terrible, and they couldn't find the answer. The answer is embarrassing, and it was this: we did not have good numbers. I was not from the industry. I was unable to figure out by myself that there are two parts to this business. There is the truck and there is the tank and pump. And the business was mounting a tank and pump on a truck. The founder of the business, who sold it to the private equity group, owned 4 truck dealerships. And he did not sell the truck dealerships. He just sold the tank part. The money was made with the trucks, not the tanks. And all of these hotshot accountants had no idea. I didn't either. I'm not that smart. And so my lesson was, if I don't know the industry, I've got to have good numbers, or otherwise I don't have a chance. And that would be true for any other leader as well. And so the question for any leader thinking about a succession is, so what are you going to do now? And that question opens the door to a chance to build a path, to build a series of steps which could make this succession work more successfully. That was 3 times using the word success, in case you're counting. Okay, anybody have a question?
So Jim, once you hit the stop share, I'm assuming you're done with your.
I am. So if I could find stop share, I would be thrilled.
It'll be at the top. It'll be at the top of the screen when you roll over it. You'll see a stop share button up at the top somewhere.
You think so, huh? Don't you love this?
If you hit your escape key in the top left-hand part of your keyboard, that'll get you out.
I did.
Then go to the toolbar and click on the green button and stop the share.
Okay. Stop share. There we go.
There you go.
Thank you. It's like
You're welcome.
childbirth.
Jim, that was a great talk.
Thank you.
Very, very nice development, great stories, and yes, practical advice on how do you convince a current leader to have the courage to actually do what they say they want to do. They say they want to do it, but then when it comes right down to it, they're basically terrified that they'll do it wrong.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, so my question on those lines would be how have you found the challenge of getting them to accept help? Usually you're dealing with a fairly egotistic individuals who's been doing what they've been doing for a while, and they've been doing it right, obviously, because it got them to where they are. And now they're entering a new era and they don't know what they're doing, but how do you get them to begin to accept help? How does that work for you?
Oh, it's a great, I would know you would come up with a question. It's different depending on the people. Carol's husband said you have 5 years and you got to get the hell out of here. And she was getting tired of it. So she, as I told you, she did the Friday thing and it didn't work. So she was ready for help.
Mm-hmm.
A different situation is a guy who needed to have the answer for everything. And he was in a business owned by Bain Capital.
Mm-hmm.
A very impressive bunch, by the way. And they told him, you will have a coach. So that was his motivation. He ended up making over $1 million a year in that job. So he was happy to do that. Another guy this was about showing him what happens if he builds a management team, which increases the valuation of the business by at least 1 EBITDA. And I told him, you ask your accountant, ask your investment banker. I'm right. What is your EBITDA? Oh my gosh. Anyway, it was for him several $1 million. Do you want the money? Then let's build a team. That's another way to do it. The idea that somehow you ought to do it because that's what other people is doing. It's not me, not now. You're right. I don't need to do this. The other thing I would say is if you're selling, I didn't say much about this, the buyer always has a bank. The bank always brings in one of the major accounting firms, which have teams of people who live under the floorboards. And those people crawl out from under the floorboards and crawl into your financials. And their job is to find reasons to lower the price. If you don't have a team that's as good as that team, they will eat your lunch, especially if it's one of your buddies from the trade association, who's your friend. And that's right, but he becomes a buyer. And he buys just like you buy. He wants a fair price. He's looking for an opportunity to get a better deal. And so will he, even though he won't talk about it. So if you aren't armed and prepared, you're going to have your head handed to you. And I have 10 stories. I'll give you 2. One is a $40 million loss in price between letter of agreement and close for a company that didn't do that. Another one, much smaller business, who had a letter of intent at $2.5 million and ended up getting nothing other than he could hold on to the lease of the building which he already owned that the buyer was going to use. He lost $2.5 million. So anyway, those kinds of stories get people's attention, and those come from investment bankers who I know, and those are real deals.
Right. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Any other questions for either for Jim or for John?
Jim, what's the biggest snafu you've ever witnessed? I don't mean you've been involved, just the biggest one you've ever seen.
Oh, interesting. Well, one of them It's a company that was doing all of the things right, but focused on the leadership process, and it was structured in a way where I'm going to say its mid-level managers really determined whether or not they made money, and they had weak information and depended on managers' personal work history rather than teaching them how to manage the jobs from day to day. And they didn't do a very good job, and it cost them several $1 million and about a 20% reduction in people because they didn't solve that problem. They hired untrained people, had no way to train them, and therefore didn't make money. That's one. And another one was the story I told you that was a client of mine who started out at 2.5 million and got nothing. And the mistake was, this is a good guy, clever, smart. He used his investment advisor to manage the sale, which is crazy. And the buyer had 9 months of time to do due diligence, which is ridiculous. They just kept coming back and digging and found more and found more and found more. And his guy didn't understand how to shut that down and did not put it into the deal. There's also, and this is one where I know about, I didn't involve and didn't do it myself. There are ways to write an agreement where part of the money comes later, and it's not just an earnout. There are other factors. And if you have a lawyer who is good at stuff but hasn't done this kind of a business, he probably won't catch that. And that can be as much as 25 or 30% of the purchase price that you will never get. And by the time you figure it out, the horses left the barn, as they say. So I should have said this. The message, if you're selling, is that you need a team of 5 people, all who have years of experience in selling businesses. Not your current lawyer, not your current accountant, and so forth. Unless, this is like heart surgery. When they say you need surgery on your heart, your second question is, how many of these operations have you done, right? It's that important to get people who really understand how to ride the horse.
Who are the 5 people that you need?
Accountant, lawyer. You should have a leadership expert. Some people don't see that, but you need that. An investment banker, and I'm blocking the. Oh, and by the way, the reasons to have an investment banker are 2. Your odds of closing go way up because their job is to make the deal close and to get real buyers brought to the table. And I don't remember the 5th one. Another story, a company I was the chief operating officer for, the owner wanted to sell, a buyer made an offer and then spent probably 6 months messing with us, getting in the way of running the business, and ultimately withdrew his offer because he said there's nothing here to buy. Go figure. So, yes.
Would the 5th be an HR person?
It could be.
I would think my experiences would be it would be an industry expert, somebody who knows.
Yes, thank you.
How is money made, and who are we competing against in that?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Any other questions for our speakers today? Well, before we conclude, I see we had Sam join us kind of midstream here. So Sam, would you like to just introduce yourself? Let us know who you are, and we appreciate you joining us today. Sam is choosing to remain on mute, so we'll go ahead and conclude the formal part of our meeting. And I really appreciate the time that John and Jim took with us and preparing for us, and obviously both very well prepared and lots of good information. So thank you both very much. And we're going to continue on with yes, let's give them a hand, please.
Thank you.
Speakers. And so we're going to continue on with the informal part of the meeting, which is our networking session. And anybody is welcome to stay on and join us for that piece as well. Okay.
Thank you, Frank.
You bet.
I have a question who might be available in the next 30 days to have a meeting to meet with some of our new members and get more member interaction.
This is Harvey, I'm happy to do it.
Same here, John.
Okay, good.
Frank,
Yeah.
give me that.
I think he was volunteering, John.
Well, that's good. That's good. Because I think that we have about 6 or more new members. And I think it's a good time coming into ConsultCon to get some more interaction so that during or immediately after ConsultCon, there's more interaction and discussion about what's occurred during ConsultCon. I was at the last one and it was just wonderful.
So Jarvez has to bail out. So thanks for joining us, Jarvez, and we'll look forward to catching up to you soon. Thank you.
Hey, we'll talk to you later, Jarvez. Well, Harvey, you had some good penetrating comments about being engaged with an audience. And I'll tell you, in our talks, we don't typically get much interaction during the talks themselves. So all the interaction typically takes place after. We have done some where we have polls and we have some discussion in between, but by and large, that doesn't happen every month. Most of it is the comments and discussion after the talks.
Hey, thank you, John.
Well, so Jim, let's you and I talk sometime in the next couple of days. You mentioned Wednesday, tomorrow. I'll shoot you an email and we'll come up with some time that we can catch up. I looked in my notes and I've got notes from 2011 of you and I talking and having regular conversations over a period of 6 or 8 months when you had first joined.
Yes. I think that's good. We can talk on Wednesday. I've been on vacation for almost 2 weeks. So the rest of this week is too long a list, but we can figure out a date. It'll be sometime next week.
Sure.
You bet. Thanks very much, John.
I have a question for Jim.
Yeah.
Where do you live, Jim?
You know where Good Samaritan Hospital is in Northwest Portland?
No, I don't. I live in Southern Oregon.
Oh, well, I live in Northwest Portland, down on the flat, not up on the hill. Why do you ask?
Well, I just was curious because this is the first time I've met you, but I was curious to what extent do you get involved on the business valuation side in the transaction?
Not at all. I'm not a financial guy, and that's a specialty which I don't do. My advice to clients is find someone who is a pro at that. I have a client who is really good at that. I would say it this way: she wins in court in the bloody fights, but I don't do that. Why do you ask?
Well, I am looking for someone that want to confirm the valuation process. And I'd just like to have a conversation with someone, and I thought maybe that might be you. So you really don't, that's not part of what you,
Correct.
you do it, but do you get involved in interpreting it or anything like
Not
that?
at all. No, I don't do that. But the person that I recommend is a woman named Laura Marquis, Markee. She's in Vancouver. And
Okay, can you email? Yeah, okay. Could you email me her contact information if you, I don't know where our list is on John has online here, but I'd like to just have
Sure.
a conversation with her.
What's your email address?
It's just Harvey, if you look at my name on the screen, Harvey at my full name, Harvey at harveymeyer.com.
Okay,
That'd be great. Thank you.
I'd be happy to do that. I'm sure. And hopefully it'll work.
I'm also looking for someone that actually gets involved in a buy-sell type of transaction and negotiations between two partners, has had experience in that arena. Does anyone here have anyone that they could refer me to?
I do. What size is the deal?
It's a small deal, just a small two-person company, probably under $1 million in revenue, but it's all free. It's worth probably twice that much.
I have the name of, I can't remember his last name, Eric, and I'll get it in a minute. I'll email you that name also.
Okay, great.
what he
Thank you.
Of course.
That's what he did.
Yes,
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
you bet. And if the fight is about the valuation, Laura is great. She's
Yeah,
almost
no.
she's almost 6 feet tall. She leaves no live people behind her. She's very good. So people don't just quit fooling around, and she knows her stuff. And she
Yeah.
wins in court because she's so much better prepared than the other person. And I could tell you more stories about her, but that's why I'm recommending her. And for this, where there are two partners trying to figure out what is this thing worth and what's the transfer value, that's the kind of stuff she does.
Okay, and then Eric, what does he do?
He's an investment banker. You might call him a business broker. He does deals $1 million, $2 million. I'll send you his name. I'm sorry, I can't.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's good. So I'll connect with both of them and explain what the situation is and see to what extent. Sounds like Lori would be a good potential fit for starters.
Absolutely. You should know her anyway if you're involved at all in valuation. She is really good.
Yeah, I don't do them myself, but I'm more of the mediator between.
Right.
parties.
Right, which is why you need somebody like that.
One of the things you got to establish is right up front, are you buying the business or are you buying the asset?
This particular business has no assets.
Okay, so it's a business, it's a sale of an ongoing business.
Yeah, it's a professional service business.
Sure. Okay, so that's important to know because that's one path compared to the asset sale,
Correct.
which is a whole different ballgame.
I understand. Thank you.
Right.
Well, it's interesting. Sometimes you can treat the intangibles and break down what is the value of each of the intangible assets. And while
Right.
they're intangible, when you break it down to customer list or a book of business or history or how many years or all the different elements, you can begin to make sense of it in a more
Right.
logical way.
But in an ongoing business, the thing that is hardest to get at is what's called the trend EBITDA.
Yeah.
Which is the core, what's the core cash generation of the business over time without any one-time, anomaly kind of things. But what's the engine generating on a regular basis and will be going forward? What's that look like going forward? And then you can put a value on that. And really the only thing that differs from there is the multiples are different from one industry to the next. So multiples in a old line, manufacturing industry tend to be a little bit lower. High tech, they tend to be higher. But the core is what is that engine of the business? How much cash is that generating every year, regardless of the one-time anomalies that have occurred?
Yeah. Hey, hi guys. This is Sam here. I gotta leave, but thank you very much for this presentation. And Jim, I appreciate what you said. That was very good. A friend of mine is entertaining a sales of one of his business. So some of the pointers I'll make sure I mention to him. So just to help him along in the process. So thank you guys. It was really good. Yeah, appreciate it.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, welcome, Sam, and I hope you come to another event. I don't recall that you've ever come before that I can recall. Have you visited us before?
No, I have joined, online and stuff like that, but I really, the timing sometimes doesn't work for me and things like that. So I'm kind of like, you can say I'm watching from afar and this being an evening meeting. So that was, the time was okay for me. That's why I joined midstream because it was a bit early the starting point, but at least now the second half was good. But it's good information. Like I said, I'm a FAR member, if you will. So
Take a look at ConsultCon and joining us for ConsultCon November 5th and 6th.
okay, I will do.
If you've enjoyed this, I think you'd really, really find a lot of value in ConsultCon. It's
Okay.
it's 2 days. If you go to imcusa.org and then look up the lineup for it.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Thank you
Will
for
do.
joining us.
So
Appreciate it.
John, are you planning on any kind of in-person get together later in the year or over the holidays?
You bet.
What does that mean? You bet.
I love to throw parties.
Are you gonna do one?
Absolutely.
Why
Do you
just-
remember, do you remember Kathy Nelson?
Yes.
Okay, so Kathy, I had emailed Kathy, I don't know, 3 months ago or something. I don't know. I can't remember when it was. I sent her an email that said, "Hello, old friend. What are you doing?" So a couple of days ago, she replied finally. And she said, "Oh, my life is, going like this. But we're starting a new location for the winery. She and her husband are running a winery. Did you know that?"
No.
Yeah, they began a winery. So she stopped consulting and now they're opening a Hillsborough location in November. And I said, "How interesting. Let me know more and we may throw our event at your place." We've had Christmas parties at her home before.
Okay, well, I was just asking what, if you have anything going on in December, let me know. I've got our daughter moved to Portland and we're going up there on the 10th, 11th, 12th. So I didn't know what your schedule was. Don't build it around mine. But
Yeah,
if you happen to have something going on, I assume you'll notify everyone in advance.
yeah, I will. And typically it's like the second week in December, which is going to be like the week of the 12th through the 18th. So I would say it's high likelihood it'll be the 7th or the 14th.
The
One of
seventh- Oh, okay.
The
All
7th,
right.
14th, because we frequently do things on Tuesdays. We're in the habit of it. So I don't know. We'll have to see, but yeah, we're gonna have something, and we've been talking about like every 3 months to have a live event,
Oh, okay, good.
but we haven't done it yet. This will be the first time in 2 years.
Where are you coming from, Harvey? I didn't
Uh,
know.
Ashland, Oregon. Southern
Ashland, yeah,
Oregon. It's a long hike, so to
yeah,
speak, for
yeah.
a Michigan.
it is, definitely.
Okay, well, I'm gonna run to John, Frank, great job, Carol. I don't see you online, but great job today. It was a good conversation, so thank you.
Thanks, Harvey.
Okay,
Thank
Talk to you soon. Take
Yep.
care.
So Frank, Jim did a good job, real good job.
Oh, yeah, you did. He knows his stuff.
Yep.
Definitely. So I put out an email earlier that I can't make the 4 o'clock on Thursday. I have a client conflict.
Oh,
I can go earlier or later, or if you guys can't move, I can just join as soon as I'm done. It should take me about half an hour. It's a client update meeting that they had to shift to Thursday at 4. So,
That'll be fine. I'm sure that we can adjust it.
okay, well, just look at the email and respond what works best for you. Jerry said he could do either 3 or 5.
Okay.
So
Sounds
if you can do one of those two, just let me know and then I'll join when I can.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for
Okay.
your help.
You bet.
You did
Thanks,
great.
Carol. Thank you. Thanks, Carol. Appreciate it. See you later.
Okay,
Okay, so let's close it so that we can process it.
one of the things that I found is that I'd forgotten that since I don't have a paid account, I can't do cloud recordings.
Oh, okay. So it's recording right now. Stop the recording.
That's what I just noticed.